before enjoying yourself was frowned upon, you know, a time when sculling a beer didn't get you kicked out of the MCG, or lighting a cigarette didn't make people look at you like you ought to be shot. Newspapers often use the headline, "Beer and Cigs Up," around federal budget time. You know, the things that people really care about. Well, I'm pleased to report that the Nationals want to make this an issue again, and the Coalition is now considering lowering the tax on beer to the next federal election. The excise goes up every 6 months in line with CPI, which means for the past few years there have been big hikes, and pubs are now struggling because people just won't pay for a schooner. Some places are charging as much as $15 these days, which is a bloody outrage, un-Australian as far as I'm concerned. Here was the Nationals leader David Littleproud earlier today.
Cost of living crisis that has meant that Australians aren't turning up to the pubs. They don't have the disposable income they used to. But then when you couple that with the 6 monthly increase in excise, that's putting beer out of the reach of many Australians, and then also the fact that it's taking away families from not wanting to go out on a Friday night or a Saturday night and having a meal out, it means that these publicans are doing it pretty tough, and they're small businesses. They're mum and dad small businesses.
Joe, this is election-winning policy.
That's right. And I had to correct you on air, Caleb, but in fact, that was one word too many. It wasn't beer and cigs up. It was just beer, cigs up.
There you go.
And it's widely regarded as the greatest Daily Telegraph front page in all of human history, and I concur. I think this is an absolute no-brainer, and I was just talking to a mate of mine about Chris Minns' mastery of this kind of retail politics, just going after really simple stuff that matters to people, that isn't ideological, that is simply about making people's lives just a little bit easier, dare I say it, making society just a little bit freer. And I touched on this, I just came back from Melbourne this afternoon, and just the difference in the vibe there, where their spirit has just been crushed by the COVID restriction, the COVID lockdown. They're still not recovered from it, and the shops are shut, the streets seem half empty.
Joe, how did you get the Labor Party into this?
And the difference,
David Littleproud.
No, but Chris Minns has done the exact same types of things. He's just introduced a thing saying that that you will no longer have to become a member of a club if you live within a 5 kilometre radius. He also got rid of ridiculous restrictions on people standing up, having a beer outside a pub. So it's these really simple stuff. So I think the Nats are on a winner here. It's obviously also good for small business and the pubs themselves if it gets people out and about. So I would say go for it, do it, and if Labor Party's watching, match it.
Well, exactly. I think they ought to. And they ought to extend this, I think, as well to fuel excise, Kel. Because if you want to talk about the things that the government can actually do to alleviate cost of living, a lot of it comes down to the taxes that they put on the products that we buy every day. And, you know, if you get to the end of the week and you want to buy a slab of beer because you've worked hard all week and you want to enjoy yourself on the weekend, a lot of people now go, well, heck, I just can't afford to do that. You sap that little bit of joy out of people's lives. Then they go to fill up the car on the way to the bottle shop and they get slugged 49 cents for every litre that they fill up. You have the fuel excise, you reduce the alcohol excise, lead freedom and wealth in this country by drinking more beer.
Vote 1, Caleb Bond.
Correct. A free beer for everyone.
The point is that this is part of a suite of tax reforms. And this is where I think Dutton and the Coalition are being so clever. They've decided they're not going to play the game of being a small target with few policies. They're going to say, we've got a vision for Australia, a vision where Australia does a little bit better because you've got a little bit more money in your pocket. They will do exactly what you're talking about. It was a coalition government that took off the fuel excise for 2 years. So they know that it works, they know it's popular, they know they need to actually practically cut the cost of living for people. So things like the beer excise, the fuel excise, those kinds of things can go. But it's part of this bigger picture. Already Angus Taylor has said we're going to cut $100 million out of the budget. And Jim Chalmers thought he was clever saying, name where it's coming from. And he did. He went through a whole lot of wasteful government programs and said we can do without those. These people have got a vision, they've got a program, and the problem with the Albanese government is their program was getting the voice up. That didn't work, and they've got nothing else.
They haven't had much after that. And more broadly, though, Claire, these taxes, the tobacco excise, the alcohol excise, they're often referred to as sin taxes. And I prattle on ad nauseum about the tobacco excise because I think it is just ridiculous. I mean, we've got some of the most expensive cigarettes in the world, and that is leading to a massive boom in organised crime in terms of illegal tobacco. But the concept of things like alcohol and tobacco, that you can jack the price of them up every 6 months and no one seems to bat an eyelid, you know, even if you don't drink or you don't smoke, and most people these days don't smoke, I think it's outrageous.
Yeah, it is. It depends, are we going to look at this like a complete money grab, which I think it is, or is the government coming in saving us from, you know, these sins of smoking and drinking? But like you've argued about cigarettes, it doesn't actually work. And I remember when I started drinking, we were on the lemon ruskies, I don't know if you know, the lemon stollies, anyway, and they went through the roof, you know, and then teenagers or, you know, over 18-year-olds, we couldn't afford our lemon stollies anymore. So what did teenagers do? They just went straight and bought like pure vodka, because that was actually a cheaper way to do it, and add some lemon cordial. So people will still keep drinking. And the other point I worry about with this, and my old man's just come back from London and he reckons he paid 12 quid over there for a beer. Like
12 quid?
Like $24. So that's where we're going.
Buy a house
you know,
for that.
God almighty.
Well, that's right. What we don't want is taking that joy. But, you know, how many times are we going on about mental health is about connection? And Friday afternoon to go down and speak with people and have a beer and debrief on your week and community, rather than buying a slab and drinking at home and being connected like this.
You would know, but there's actually been research done that shows that going and having a beer with your mates is actually good for your health.
Hugely protective.
And the whole line about
I should be the healthiest person alive.
The whole line about this being some health measure, I just don't think is true, because if you look at the data around the percentage or the number of people dying because of alcohol-related or binge drinking issues, it's actually declined for around 10 years. And so the idea that this is some sort of health measure, I don't buy. It's a revenue raising scheme, and Labor will tax anything they can to get another buck out of you.
That's because young people don't drink anymore.
Well, that is part of the problem.
Because it's so flipping expensive.
I wonder why they're depressed and anxious all
I
the
know.
time.
And spare a thought for the publicans of Australia who are working overtime to turn a buck, and the government keeps taking their money away.
This policy has got a whole Slim Dusty song built into it.
Exactly. There is nothing so lonesome, morbid or drear than to watch the Sunday Showdown without a beer. Actually, no, it's a program so good you can watch it without a beer, but still, I'd be watching it. If I were you, you know, this mug would have beer in it right now. But anyway, thank you for watching the program as always.